Imagine that you write a book today that predicts the outcome of the 2020 elections. And imagine in that book you also go ahead and predict the outcome of the 2024 elections and the 2028 elections. Now, not only will everyone think you're a little bit crazy, but what would people think of you after those elections happened? And what if they happened exactly the way you predicted? Well, now all of a sudden, people's opinion of you probably changes. Now they're going to start asking you to predict the stock market's next bull and bear market cycles. Now, since we're imagining, what if 500 years from now, someone stumbles across your book, maybe on Amazon, and after reading it, they come to this conclusion. They think there is no way your book was written before the 2020 elections. They argue 500 years from now that it had to have been written after the elections because of the historical accuracy. You see, your precise proclamation of future events causes those in the future to question the timeline and accuracy of your writings. That's exactly a great parallel of what people say about the prophetic book of Daniel. You see, Daniel speaks with such clarity and specificity about future world events that many people believe and say that the book of Daniel had to have been written many years after those events occurred and not before. I mean, who else would know that Babylon would fall to the Medes and Persians, and who would fall to the Greeks, and then who would fall later to the Romans? You see, Daniel knew all that. He saw all of that in dreams and visions. And Daniel even had a dream about a Greek army being led by one very great, powerful ruler. And that ruler would be replaced by 4 leaders. It's no coincidence that he was talking about Alexander the Great, who was succeeded by, yep, you guessed it, 4 leaders. We don't have to read the book of Daniel and wonder if he wrote it after the events. If anything, we can look at the book of Daniel and it reminds us that God knows the future. There's never a moment in time when God would have to say, wow, I didn't see that coming. He does see it, and he knows it. And it tells us that God has a divine purpose and plan. You see, Daniel lived and wrote the book of Daniel about 500 years before Jesus Christ. He was a young boy when Babylon came through the capital city of Jerusalem and took everyone as captives. And he served not only several kings of Babylon, but also King Cyrus, the king of Persia. In fact, the book of Daniel uses some words that wouldn't have been around during the time of Jesus. You know how over time words and phrases change? Like when you pick up a book that uses fancy old English phrases and terms, it's kind of a big identifier and a big clue that really wasn't written during today's time frame. Just like that with the book of Daniel. Hey, here's 3 quick fun facts to kind of help you better understand the prophetic and the historical book of Daniel. Number 1, Daniel is sometimes referred to as the revelation of the Old Testament. See, the revelation of the New Testament speaks about the end times, and a lot of Daniel speaks to the end times as well. Not only did he write about world kingdoms that would dominate the known world of that time, think about, the Roman Empire, Daniel also wrote about the future coming kingdom of Jesus Christ. Listen to these words from Daniel 7, verse 14. And to him was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom that all the peoples, nations, and men of every language might serve him. And his dominion is an everlasting dominion which will not pass away. And his kingdom is one which will not be destroyed. Second thing about Daniel is he had a name change whenever he was living in Babylon. You see, his parents were the ones that gave him the name of Daniel, which means God is my judge. The Babylonians wanted the young Jews to forget their Hebrew God. So they changed their names to something that fit their false worldly gods. Daniel's name was changed to Belshazzar. Bel was a name for their false god, and the rest, Shazar, simply means to protect the king. So when Daniel became Belshazzar, his name was literally mean God protected the king. Bel protects the king. Third fun fact about Daniel, Daniel remained faithful in an ungodly culture. If I were to tell you to think about a culture that was pretty wealthy, a culture that was open to lots of new ideas, where people lived out their own passions, their own pleasures, and everyone lived by the motto, if it suits you, then just do it. You might be thinking of the American culture, and that is true, but it's really also the culture of Babylon. You see, even in that culture, when everyone pursued their own desires, Daniel was the one that remained faithful. He becomes our example of what it looks like to pursue the God of creation in a world that pursues the God of self. Enjoy your conversation around the prophetic book of Daniel.